In the history till date, scientists of the world have done different fields and different types of experiments, some of which were successful and some were unsuccessful. But some such experiments were also done which remain a mystery even today, and their results were also not clear. Some of the given experiments were run by the government, while others were run by private institutions. So in today's blog we will tell you about top 15 mysterious science experiments in history which you must read. Reading these experiments will increase interest in the experiments conducted in the field of science. These experiments are very interesting and full of entertainment. Let's go and find out the top 15 mysterious science experiments in history. 15. Russian Sleep Experiment. The Russian Sleep Experiment was a horrific experiment conducted in the late 1940s in which 5 prisoners were kept awake for 15 days using an experimental gas. The prisoners began to exhibit signs of psychosis and violence, and one of them died. The experiment was eventually stopped, and only one prisoner survived. 14. Monster Study. The Monster Study, which was conducted in Davenport, Iowa in 1939, focused on 22 orphans and was led by Wendell Johnson of the University of Iowa. Graduate student Mary Tudor supervised the experiment under Johnson's guidance. Half of the children received positive speech therapy, where their speech fluency was praised, while the other half received negative speech therapy, where their speech imperfections were praised. Many orphans who received negative therapy experienced adverse psychological effects, and some struggled with speech problems throughout their lives. Due to concern among Johnson's colleagues that he was exploiting orphans to confirm a hypothesis, the experiment received the nickname Monster Study. To protect Johnson's reputation from being tarnished as a result of Nazi human experiments during World War II, the study was kept secret. 13. A human brain trapped in a mouse. Researchers at the Salk Institute in La Jolla embarked on an investigation to understand the consequences of implanting a human brain into a mouse's body. Initially, they cultivated human brain cells by introducing embryonic stem cells into mouse embryos. The idea was that if successful, this hybrid brain might perceive the world from a mouse's perspective, engage in cognitive processes, and experience emotions. However, the human consciousness found itself confined within a minuscule, delicate vessel, unable to fully engage with its surroundings. It became akin to a captive within its own corporeal confines, with no avenue for escape. 12. The Milgram Experiment. The Milgram Experiments on Obedience to Authority, led by Yale psychologist Stanley Milgram, involved 40 men of various ages, educational backgrounds, and occupations. The study aimed to assess their willingness to act against their personal morals. Participants believed they were assisting in an unrelated experiment involving electric shocks, unaware that the shocks were simulated. These shocks were gradually raised to potentially lethal levels. Surprisingly, the results revealed that most subjects obediently followed instructions. Every participant reached 300 volts, and an alarming 65% went as far as administering the maximum 450 volts. 11. Self-surgery. Self-surgery is the act of performing a surgical procedure on oneself. Self-surgery was an attempt to avoid poor circumstances, embarrassment, legal action or financial cost, or a rare expression of psychological disorder. The first self-surgery was performed on the 15th of February 1921, by Ewan O'Neill Kane, an American surgeon. He attempted surgery on himself to remove his appendix. The only problem he faced during the operation was that his intestines came out due to him leaning forward while he was performing the operation, but he successfully managed to get his appendix out. 10. The Max Planck Experiments. The great scientist Max Planck conducted an experiment on blackbody radiation, which deals with the emission of electromagnetic radiation from a hot object. During the experiment he discovered that the experimental results could not be adequately explained by classical physics. As a result, he introduced a groundbreaking theory suggesting that energy is emitted in discrete units or quanta. This phenomenal theory, which is now recognized as quantum theory, Planck revolutionized the field of physics and gave a new direction to many innovative technologies. 9. Double slit experiment. In modern physics, it is demonstrated by the double slit experiment that light exhibits properties of both matter, wave and particle. Apart from this, the experimental nature of quantum mechanical phenomena is also shown by this experiment. A simple experiment with 2 slits was originally performed by Thomas Young in 1801. The experiment belongs to a general class of double path experiments, in which a wave is split into 2 separate waves that are then combined into a single wave. The change in the path length of the 2 waves results in a phase shift between them, creating an interference pattern. Another variant is the Mach-Zehnder interferometer, which splits the beam with a mirror. 8. 1 year in bed. NASA and the European Space Agency have offered $19,000 to each of the 24 participants, 12 men and 12 women, to stay in bed for at least 2 months. The purpose of the experiment, according to NASA, is to research how the body changes in weightlessness. By doing so, space scientists hope to create methods that can counteract the effects of weightlessness. This experiment is also known as Top 15 Mysterious Science Experiments in History. 7. The hanging studies. Nicolae S. Minovici was a Romanian forensic scientist and criminologist who served as head of his country's anthropological service. He is known for his research on the physical effects between hanging and the human body. He was the founder of the Legal Medicine Association of Romania and publisher of the Romanian Journal of Legal Medicine. His research on the effects of hanging on the human body included several experiments with hanging on himself, each lasting approximately 5 seconds in duration. Through this experiment, he wanted to find out what happens when a person dies by hanging. 6. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. The Dyatlov Pass case USSR is an event that occurred in today's Russia that remains a mystery to this day. 9 skiers and hikers are said to have mysteriously died in the northern Urals. The incident took place from 1 to the 2nd of February 1959, on the eastern slope of Mount Kholat, better known as the Dead Mountain. The investigation by the Soviet authorities revealed only that an unknown, irresistible force had caused the pedestrian's death. The mountain pass on which the incident took place has been renamed Dyatlov Pass after Igor Dyatlov, the leader of that group. This experiment is also known as Top 15 Mysterious Science Experiments in History. 5. Nazi human experimentation. The Nazi human experiments were a series of medical experiments conducted by Nazi Germany primarily on prisoners in its concentration camps between 1942 and 1945. The experiment involved 15,754 documented victims of various ages and groups nationally, although the actual number is believed to be much wider. The experiment was very cruel and sadistic, resulting in the death of a quarter of the documented victims and the survival of many others. Survivors generally experienced serious permanent injuries. Some of the most infamous experiments involved hypothermia, starvation, and experiments conducted at high altitudes. This program was a disgrace to humanity, and the victims of these experiments should never be forgotten. 4. Project MK-Ultra. MK-Ultra was a Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, project to develop mind control and programming techniques. The project was initiated in 1953 by Alan Dulles, the agency director, and ended in the early 1970s. In 1974, a series of publications in the New York Times publicly exposed the existence of covert programs targeting American citizens during the 1950s and 1960s. These revelations caused a national uproar, leading to the setting up of several commissions of inquiry. Later, this project to control the human mind was closed. 3. The Montauk Project. The Montauk Project is a conspiracy theory alleging that several United States government projects were conducted at Camp Hero or Montauk Air Force Station in Montauk, New York, for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and alien research, including time travel. The story of the Montauk Project originated in the Montauk Project series of books by Preston Nichols, which combined those stories with stories about the Bulgarian experiment. This experiment is also known as Top 15 Mysterious Science Experiments in History. 2. Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment was a psychological study conducted by Stanford University in 1971. This experiment was conducted to test the effects of authority and power on human behavior. Participants for the experiment were recruited through an advertisement in local newspapers that promised $15 a day to male students willing to participate in a psychological study of prison life. As a result of which 20 healthy male students expressed their wish, who were randomly assigned the roles of a prisoner and a prison guard. Inmates were housed in a mock prison in the basement of Stanford's psychology building, and prison guards were given uniforms and plastic batons. The experiment was to last for 2 weeks, but it was terminated after 6 days as the prison guards became increasingly brutal towards the prisoners and the prisoners became increasingly submissive. Experiments showed how easily people can be corrupted by power. 1. The Philadelphia Experiment. The experiment was a collaborative effort between US scientists and the military. In any case, America is famous around the world for groundbreaking discoveries, pioneering experiments, and mysterious occurrences. One such incident is the Philadelphia Experiment. According to historians, this experiment was carried out by the US military during World War II, yet it remains an enigma till date. On October 28, 1943, US forces attempted to render the 1,200-ton battleship Eldridge invisible. The ship is said to have disappeared for some time, with the result that the army was taken by surprise. After this incident, when efforts were made to retrieve the ship, it failed to reappear, having drifted 300 kilometers from its initial location. There was speculation that the ship had undergone time travel. However, the US military dismissed the incident as false and said that no such experiment had ever been conducted. Some of the experiments mentioned above proved to be successful and some faced failure or loss, while the results of some experiments were so terrible that they had to be stopped in the middle. Hope this information will increase your interest in the science field, which was very interesting and full of entertainment. Please comment below.